Riverside slept under broken streetlights. Officer Rodriguez's footsteps echoed against wet pavement, her radio a steady heartbeat in the darkness. From the alley's throat, a shadow detached itself. Torn denim, weathered hands. Caleb Harrison had learned to disappear. His son, Lucas, pressed against the brick wall, clutching drawings that shouldn't exist. The boy's pencil had captured secrets. Deadly secrets. A black sedan materialized like smoke, its headlights cutting twin wounds through the fog. The engine whispered promises of violence. Rodriguez's hand found her weapon's grip. Too late. Caleb's fingers wrapped around her wrist, not threatening, pleading. His voice cracked like autumn leaves. Don't talk. Don't move. Don't let him know you see. The sedan's window rolled down with mechanical precision. He's been watching you for weeks. The radio on Rodriguez's belt hissed with static. The dispatcher's voice cut through like broken glass. Unit 12, respond to disturbance on Oak Street. Her thumb moved toward the button. Caleb's grip tightened. His eyes held the weight of 18 months sleeping rough. 18 months watching shadows that shouldn't exist. The sedan's occupant remained invisible behind tinted glass, but Caleb knew that silhouette, knew the way those shoulders hunched forward when concentrating, knew the habit of polishing a badge when lying. Lucas pressed deeper into the brick wall. His small fingers traced the cover of his notebook. Inside, 23 drawings waited like loaded weapons. Each page captured a moment no 6-year-old should have witnessed. The license plate of a dark car on a rainy night. A man's profile behind a steering wheel. The same face that appeared in family photographs, teaching him to throw a baseball. Before everything changed. Before Mama stopped coming home. Rodriguez felt her training kick in. Assess the threat. Identify escape routes. But the homeless man's desperation cut through her protocols. This wasn't a random encounter. His weathered face held knowledge that could destroy lives or save them. The sedan's engine purred closer. 30 yards, 25. The gap between safety and catastrophe closing with each heartbeat. Her radio crackled again. Unit 12, please respond. The voice echoed off empty storefronts like a death sentence. He killed my wife. Caleb's whisper barely disturbed the air between them. 18 months ago. Made it look like an accident. His grip on her wrist trembled. Not from fear, but from fury held in check for too long. Rachel was going to testify. Had evidence that could have brought down half the department. The sedan stopped. Headlights died. In the sudden darkness, only the soft click of a car door opening. Rodriguez's blood turned to ice water. Someone was coming. Lucas clutched his notebook tighter. The drawings inside seemed to burn against his chest. 23 pictures of the same car, the same man, the same guilty face that visited them for Sunday dinners before Mama died. Uncle Vincent, who brought chocolate and baseball cards, who helped Daddy with his cases, who promised to take care of them after the funeral. The same Uncle Vincent who made Daddy disappear into the streets, who made them both invisible. The footsteps approached with measured confidence. Rodriguez recognized that walk. Years of patrol beats had taught her to identify people by their gait. This wasn't a street criminal or desperate junkie. This was law enforcement. Someone who owned the night and expected it to yield. Her stomach dropped as pieces clicked into place. The missing homeless persons she'd been investigating. The cases that went nowhere. The evidence that disappeared from lockup. She wasn't hunting a predator. She was the prey. Caleb pulled her deeper into the alley's mouth. His movements carried the precision of someone who'd once worn a badge himself. 20 years on the force had taught him which shadows offered real protection, which routes led to safety, and which led to graves. Lucas followed without sound, his small feet finding every silent step. They'd practiced this dance too many times, father and son united by necessity and haunted by truth. Detective Caleb Harrison, Riverside PD, retired. His voice carried the weight of authority he'd once wielded. Your partner's name is Vincent Blackwood. He's been feeding information to the Torino crime family for 10 years. My wife discovered the connection. The alley walls seemed to absorb his words. Rachel was a court stenographer. She had access to sealed testimony, audio recordings of Vincent making deals with Vincent Torino himself. Rodriguez's mind raced. Detective Lieutenant Vincent Blackwood, her training officer, the man who'd guided her first months on the force, who'd recommended her for the homeless liaison position, who'd given her the cases that never solved themselves, the missing persons reports that gathered dust while real crimes demanded attention. Now she understood why. The homeless weren't disappearing randomly. They were being eliminated. Witnesses silenced. Evidence buried 6 feet under. The footsteps paused 20 feet away. A lighter flicked. Cigarette smoke drifted toward them, carrying the scent of expensive tobacco and cheaper morals. Vincent Blackwood took his time. He owned this moment and everyone in it, or thought he did. His voice carried the false warmth of a snake oil salesman. Caleb, I know you're there, son. Saw your boy's drawings in that notebook. Kid's got quite an eye for detail. Lucas pressed his face against his father's shoulder. The notebook felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. Each drawing inside represented a piece of the puzzle that destroyed their family. The black sedan at the intersection of Maple and 3rd. The man behind the wheel checking his watch. The moment before Mama's car approached the traffic light. The impact that changed everything. Uncle Vincent climbing out to check for witnesses, finding none. Walking away while sirens wailed in the distance. Rodriguez's radio crackled again. Dispatch grew more insistent. Unit 12, your GPS shows you stationary on Oak Street. Please respond. The voice might as well have been announcing her funeral. Every word broadcast their location to the man hunting them. She reached for the device, then stopped. Caleb's eyes held a warning that needed no translation. Vincent Blackwood controlled the radio frequencies. Every transmission was monitored, every location tracked. 23 drawings. Blackwood called out. His voice echoed off brick walls like a predator testing the darkness for prey. That's how many times little Lucas saw me before that night. Family barbecues. Christmas mornings. Your boy drew every single visit, even captured my license plate in crayon. A low chuckle that held no humor. Kids notice everything, don't they? Especially the things we wish they'd forget. The cigarette glow moved closer. Blackwood's silhouette emerged from the sedan like smoke taking human form. 25 years of police work had taught him patience, how to corner suspects, how to eliminate problems, how to make evidence disappear along with the people who created it. His gambling debts to the Torino family demanded absolute loyalty, silence purchased with blood and enforced through fear. Rachel Harrison had threatened that silence. Now her family would join her. Caleb felt the familiar weight of his old service weapon against his spine, hidden beneath layers of ragged clothing and desperation. He'd kept it through 18 months of sleeping rough, cleaned it religiously, counted the bullets like prayers. 6 shots. 6 chances to balance the scales of justice that had failed his wife. But using it would make him the killer Blackwood claimed he was, would destroy any chance of proving the truth. Rodriguez's training screamed at her to call for backup, but every cop who responded would be Blackwood's ally or his victim. The corruption ran deeper than one detective's gambling debts. It infected the entire system. Her hand moved to her service weapon instead. The grip felt cold against her palm, familiar and terrifying. She'd never drawn it in anger, never pointed it at another human being. Tonight might demand both. Lucas opened his notebook. The pages whispered secrets in the darkness. 23 drawings that told a story no courtroom had heard. Evidence that could destroy careers and save lives. His small fingers found the most important page, the one that showed Uncle Vincent's car at the exact intersection where Mama died. The license plate captured in perfect detail, Hotel Victor 729. The numbers burned into a 6-year-old's memory like brands on his soul. I tried to protect you, Caleb. Blackwood's voice carried false regret. Kept you off the investigation. Filed your wife's case as accidental. Thought you'd grieve and move on like a good cop. The cigarette arced through the air, landing in a shower of orange sparks. But you couldn't let it go, could you? Had to keep digging. Had to involve the boy. Now look where we are. The alley felt smaller with each word, walls closing in like the final act of a tragedy written in blood and betrayal. Rodriguez counted her options. The mouth of the alley led back to Oak Street. Exposed ground with no cover. The rear dead-ended against a chain-link fence topped with razor wire. No escape routes. No backup coming. No hope except for the desperate plan forming behind a homeless man's eyes. Caleb's fingers found Lucas's shoulder. A gentle pressure that meant run when the shooting started. Head for the fence. Climb like Mama taught him. Don't look back no matter what sounds followed. The boy understood without words. 18 months of survival had taught him to read his father's moods like weather patterns. This felt like a storm about to break. The kind that left nothing standing in its wake. Detective Rodriguez. Blackwood's voice shifted, becoming the mentor who'd guided her first months on patrol. You stumbled into something bigger than a few missing homeless people. The Torino family has business interests throughout the county. Sometimes those interests conflict with justice. We help smooth those conflicts. It's just business. His footsteps resumed their measured approach. Walk away now. Forget what you've seen. There's a future in this department for officers who understand how things really work. The offer hung in the air like poison gas. Rodriguez felt its corruption seeping into her lungs. How many other cops had heard similar words? How many had taken the money and looked the other way? Her badge felt heavy against her chest. The oath she'd sworn seemed written in disappearing ink. But Lucas's drawings told a different story. Truth captured in crayon by innocent eyes. Evidence that demanded justice, not compromise. Lucas stepped forward. His small voice cut through the darkness like a blade forged from pure courage. You killed my mama. The words carried no anger, only certainty. I saw you check your watch. I saw you wait for her car. I drew it all. His notebook opened to reveal 23 accusations drawn in crayon and colored pencil. 23 pieces of evidence that could topple an empire built on corruption and fear. Blackwood's mask finally slipped. The false warmth died in his eyes. What emerged was calculation pure and cold. 3 problems that required permanent solutions. A homeless ex-cop with nothing left to lose. A rookie police officer who'd stumbled onto truth. A 6-year-old witness whose memory threatened everything. The Torino family didn't pay for complications. They paid for results, clean eliminations, tidy endings. Vincent Blackwood, you're under arrest. Rodriguez's voice cracked like a whip through the darkness. Her weapon appeared in her hands, trained on the man who'd taught her to hold it. For the murder of Rachel Harrison, for conspiracy to commit murder, for corruption of a police officer. The words tasted like ashes and justice, like the end of innocence and the birth of something harder. Blackwood laughed. The sound echoed off alley walls like breaking glass. With what evidence? A child's drawings, the testimony of a homeless man with a grudge. His own weapon materialized from its holster. Department issued, fully loaded, registered to a decorated officer with 25 years of service. I'll say I found you here with a known fugitive, that he threatened you, that I had to act to save your life. The standoff stretched like a held breath. 2 officers, 2 weapons, 2 versions of justice that couldn't coexist in the same world. Behind them, Caleb Harrison stepped from the shadows. His service weapon gleamed in his weathered hands. 3 guns now, 3 futures hanging in the balance. 3 chances for truth or tragedy to claim victory. Lucas clutched his notebook against his chest. 23 drawings that had led them to this moment. 23 pieces of his mama's story that refused to stay buried. The numbers on the license plate seemed to glow in the darkness. Hotel Victor 729, the key that could unlock justice or doom them all to silence. Drop your weapons, the voice came from the alley's mouth. Officer Isabel Rodriguez's backup had finally arrived, but the figure emerging from the darkness wore no uniform, carried no badge. Vincent Torino Jr. stepped into view like death wearing an expensive suit. 2 men flanked him, professional killers who eliminated problems for a living. Detective Blackwood has been very useful, but loose ends require permanent solutions. The hierarchy of corruption revealed itself in all its twisted glory. Blackwood wasn't the apex predator. He was middle management, a well-paid servant who'd outlived his usefulness. The real power belonged to men who bought politicians like groceries and disposed of witnesses like trash. Men who turned police departments into private armies, who made evidence disappear along with the people who created it. Rodriguez felt the world tilt beneath her feet. Every case she'd worked, every report she'd filed, every moment she'd believed she was serving justice, all of it corrupted by money and fear. Her radio crackled one final time. Dispatch calling for Unit 12. The voice sounded innocent, concerned, unaware that the officer they sought was about to die in an alley that reeked of broken dreams and spilled secrets. Caleb Harrison stepped forward. 18 months of rage and grief crystallized into perfect clarity. His weapon trained on the man who'd destroyed his family, who'd turned his son into a witness to murder, who'd stolen their future and left them scraps of survival in return. Lucas, show them the drawings. His voice carried the authority of a man with nothing left to lose, nothing left to fear. The notebook opened like revelation itself. 23 pages of truth drawn in crayon by innocent eyes. Each picture a nail in corruption's coffin. Each detail a thread that, when pulled, would unravel an empire built on blood and silence. The license plate numbers seemed to burn from the pages. Hotel Victor 729. evidence that could destroy careers and topple kingdoms. Vincent Torino Jr. studied the drawings with professional interest, a businessman evaluating assets and liabilities. The child's artistic skill impressed him. The attention to detail threatened him. "Remarkable work," he said finally. "But children's imaginations run wild, don't they?" Who would believe such fanciful stories? His men shifted position. Flanking movements, killing angles, the choreography of elimination performed by experts. The FBI would. Rodriguez's voice carried new strength. Truth had a way of fortifying courage. I uploaded digital copies to a secure server before my shift started. Insurance policy for missing persons cases that never got solved. The lie rolled off her tongue like honey-coated steel, but it sounded convincing, sounded like something a smart cop would do. The balance shifted again. Doubt crept into Torino's eyes. Modern technology made secrets harder to bury. Digital evidence lived forever in servers scattered across continents. Even corrupt cops couldn't delete truth from everywhere at once. His empire depended on controlling information. If the drawings had already escaped his reach, damage control became paramount. Blackwood's weapon wavered. 25 years of service reduced to this moment. This choice between loyalty and survival. The Torino family didn't forgive failure, didn't offer second chances. But neither did federal prison. His gambling debts seemed insignificant compared to life sentences and death threats. Sweat beaded on his forehead despite the cold night air. His badge felt like a millstone around his neck. Lucas stepped toward his father, the notebook still clutched in small hands that had captured truth in crayon and colored pencil. "Daddy, are we going home now?" His voice carried the innocence that 18 months of survival couldn't destroy. The hope that justice might actually prevail, that Mama's death might finally mean something beyond grief and rage and empty revenge. The alley held its breath. 5 adults with weapons drawn. 1 child with drawings that could change everything. The night air tasted of rain and revolution, of endings and beginnings, of justice delayed but not denied. Somewhere in the distance, sirens wailed. Real backup or more corruption arriving to clean up the mess. Time would tell which. Caleb Harrison made his choice. The service weapon disappeared back beneath ragged clothes. His hands rose slowly, palms open. Empty. "Isabel Rodriguez is a federal agent," he said quietly. "Internal Affairs sent her undercover to investigate missing persons cases. The drawings are already in federal custody." Another lie, but one that bought time, bought hope, bought a chance for truth to survive the night. The words hit Blackwood like physical blows. Federal investigation meant real consequences, meant prison time that no amount of money could fix, meant witness protection programs and new identities and lives spent looking over shoulders. His weapon lowered an inch. Then another. The weight of 25 years of service versus the promise of 25 to life without parole. Rodriguez felt the lie settle around her like armor, protective fiction that might keep them all breathing until real backup arrived. Her weapon remained trained on Blackwood. Steady hands, clear sight picture. The fundamentals drilled into muscle memory at the academy. When the shooting started, she'd be ready. When justice demanded action, she wouldn't hesitate. Torino's men exchanged glances. Professional killers reading the tactical situation. 3 civilians with weapons. 1 federal agent with backup coming. A child witness whose testimony could destroy their organization. The mathematics of murder didn't favor their chances. Better to withdraw. Regroup. Find another solution that didn't involve gunfights in narrow alleys where ricochets killed indiscriminately. Vincent. Torino's voice carried the cold authority of ultimate power. You've been extremely valuable over the years, but business requires adaptation, evolution. Sometimes that means cutting ties with outdated assets. The businessman's smile held no warmth, only calculation. Consider this your retirement party. Blackwood's face went white. The Torino family didn't offer retirement packages. They offered permanent solutions to personnel problems. Shallow graves in remote locations, missing person reports that gathered dust like all the others he'd helped file away. His weapon swung toward his former employers. Survival instincts overrode 25 years of corruption. When faced with execution, even dirty cops chose life. The first shot shattered the night's silence. Muzzle flash painted the alley walls in stark relief. Bodies dove for cover behind dumpsters and doorways. Lucas pressed against his father's chest, notebook clutched like a shield against the chaos erupting around them. Rodriguez rolled behind a pile of cardboard boxes, her weapon tracking targets that moved like shadows between the buildings. Blackwood's shot went wide, chipping brick from the alley wall. Torino's men returned fire with professional precision. Bullets sparked off metal fire escapes and buried themselves in ancient mortar. The enclosed space amplified every sound into deafening thunder. Gunpowder smoke mingled with the scent of rain and fear and desperate hope. Caleb shielded his son with his own body. 18 months of survival had taught them both to recognize the difference between random violence and targeted elimination. This felt personal, final, the last chapter of a story that began with Rachel's murder and would end with justice or more graves to fill. His service weapon appeared again, muscle memory overriding conscious thought. The sirens grew louder, real backup or more corruption arriving to witness the cleanup. Rodriguez couldn't tell which, but she knew one truth with absolute certainty. The notebook in Lucas's hands contained evidence that could destroy an empire built on blood and silence. That evidence had to survive the night, had to reach federal hands, had to ensure that Rachel Harrison's death meant something more than tragedy. One of Torino's gunmen stumbled backward. Blackwood's second shot found its mark. 25 years of range training paying deadly dividends. The wounded man dropped behind a dumpster, cursing in Italian and English. His partner adjusted position, seeking better angles, better killing shots. The mathematics of survival played out in lead and desperate choices. Lucas looked up at his father. "Daddy, I want to go home." His voice cut through the gunfire like a prayer for redemption. Home meant safety, meant Mama's memory preserved in photographs and bedtime stories, meant justice served and families protected and corrupt cops held accountable for their crimes. Home felt impossible from this alley. But children believed in impossible things. The notebook fell open to page 12, the drawing that showed Uncle Vincent's car at the intersection where Mama died. Hotel Victor 729, captured in perfect detail by a 6-year-old's memory. Evidence that could convict killers and topple kingdoms. Truth drawn in crayon that burned brighter than muzzle flashes in the darkness. Justice waiting to be born from innocence and courage. Rodriguez's radio crackled through the chaos. "All units, shots fired on Oak Street. Multiple officers requested." The dispatcher's voice sounded distant, clinical, unaware that corruption and justice were settling their accounts with hot lead and cold revenge. Help was coming. But which side would it serve? How many badges hid hearts that beat to the rhythm of blood money? The second gunman made his move, professional training guiding him through shadows toward better position, better angles, better chances to eliminate witnesses and evidence alike. His weapon tracked movement behind the cardboard fortress where Rodriguez had taken cover. One shot. Clean kill. Problem solved. Business as usual for men who murdered for money. Caleb Harrison stepped from cover. His service weapon barked twice in rapid succession. 20 years of police work condensed into perfect marksmanship. The gunman spun and fell, his weapon clattering across wet pavement like dice thrown by death itself. Torino stood alone now, businessman surrounded by the wreckage of his private army. Justice closing in with sirens and searchlights and the weight of truth. It's over, Vincent. Blackwood's voice carried exhaustion that went bone deep. 25 years of corruption ending in this alley. This choice between dying with honor or living with shame. His weapon remained trained on his former employer, former master, former source of blood money that had cost him his soul. The boy's drawings tell the whole story. Rachel's murder, the missing witnesses, all of it. Torino smiled. Even cornered, he radiated the confidence of a man who'd bought his way out of worse situations. You think this ends anything? I have judges in my pocket, prosecutors on my payroll, evidence disappears, witnesses relocate permanently. This is just business. His hand moved toward the weapon concealed beneath his expensive jacket. Last resort for desperate men. The sirens arrived with a symphony of red and blue lights. Car doors slammed. Voices shouted commands. Backup flooding into the alley like a tide of justice or corruption. Rodriguez couldn't tell which until she saw the faces. Fellow officers she'd worked alongside. Men and women who'd sworn the same oath. Who'd pledged to serve and protect. Their weapons drawn, but pointed at the ground. Waiting, watching, choosing sides. Lucas stood up slowly, the notebook clutched against his chest like body armor made of truth and innocence. I drew pictures of the bad man, he said simply. Pictures that show how he hurt Mama. His words carried the power of absolute honesty, the kind that children possessed before the world taught them to lie. Before corruption showed them that truth was negotiable. Detective Lieutenant Sarah Chen emerged from the crowd of responding officers. Internal affairs. Real federal backup. The investigation Rodriguez had claimed was actually happening. Justice wearing a badge and carrying handcuffs for men who'd betrayed their oaths. Her weapon trained on Vincent Blackwood. Her voice carrying the authority of truth, finally speaking. Vincent Blackwood, you're under arrest for the murder of Rachel Harrison, for conspiracy, for corruption of public office. The Miranda rights echoed off alley walls like prayers answered, like justice delayed but not denied, like the end of 18 months of grief and the beginning of something that might eventually become healing. Torino's hand froze halfway to his concealed weapon. Federal agents surrounded him like wolves closing on wounded prey. His empire built on blood and silence crumbling with each set of handcuffs clicking shut. His political connections powerless against evidence drawn in crayon by innocent eyes. His money useless against truth that burned brighter than corruption's darkness. The notebook passed from Lucas's small hands to Detective Chen's larger ones. 23 drawings that told a story of murder and cover-up and justice deferred. Each page a piece of Rachel Harrison's testimony from beyond the grave. Evidence that would convict killers and restore faith in systems that had failed too many families. Caleb Harrison knelt beside his son. "We're going home, buddy." His voice cracked with emotion, held in check for 18 months. Home to a real house with clean sheets and hot meals. Home to a life where they didn't sleep with one eye open. Home to justice served and truth preserved, and Mama's memory honored by the conviction of her killer. Rodriguez holstered her weapon. The weight of her badge felt different now. Heavier with responsibility, but lighter with corruption removed. She'd joined the force to serve and protect. Tonight she'd done exactly that. Protected a family, served justice, made her oath mean something more than empty words recited at academy graduation. The alley began to empty. Evidence technicians arrived to photograph bloodstains and collect shell casings. Crime scene tape fluttered in the night breeze like yellow ribbons marking the boundary between corruption and justice. Between 18 months of survival and a future that might actually contain hope. Detective Chen approached Caleb Harrison. "We'll need your testimony." "Lucas's too, when he's ready." Her voice carried the gentle authority of someone who understood trauma, who knew that justice required more than arrests and convictions, required healing and time and the kind of patience that let families rebuild their lives. The black sedan sat empty now, abandoned evidence of crimes that would never be repeated. Its tinted windows reflected red and blue lights like broken promises of violence. Children would sleep safer with Vincent Blackwood in custody. Families would trust badges more with corruption exposed. Justice would mean something again. Lucas looked back at the alley as they walked towards the street. Toward the light. Toward a future where his drawings told stories of happiness instead of murder. Where his mama's death meant something more than grief. Where justice prevailed and good cops protected innocent people from bad ones. The notebook was gone now, evidence in federal hands, but the truth it contained would live forever. The sirens faded into the distance. The night grew quiet except for the soft sound of rain beginning to fall, washing away the smoke and blood and 18 months of hiding in shadows, washing the streets clean for a new day. A day when Caleb Harrison would wake up as a father instead of a fugitive. When Lucas would draw pictures of playgrounds instead of crime scenes. When justice would remember how to speak truth to power. Rodriguez watched them disappear into the crowd of emergency responders. Father and son reunited with hope. Her radio crackled with routine calls. Domestic disturbances and traffic accidents and all the ordinary crimes that filled police reports. Normal work for officers who served justice instead of corruption. She smiled and keyed the microphone. Unit 12 responding. Ready to serve, ready to protect, ready to make a badge mean something again. The story was over, but the healing had just begun.